you mentioned that these are epilepsy patients that go for surgery, and you detected the effects primarily in the temporal lobe. And the temporal lobe is a brain region that is affected by epilepsy. So I wonder whether these effects could be specific to the epileptic population.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I actually wanted in this presentation to talk a bit more about this to prevent this question, because it's a very important question that should be always asked. Because of course, we don't work with healthy subjects. These are patients, so with specific diagnosis. So we try to do our best to control for this effect. So how do we do this? First of all, we take only non-pathological tissue for our study. So it's excess tissue that is far away from tumor or from epileptic focus. Of course, again, it comes from a diseased brain. So for that, we compare the parameters that we find important. We compare between diagnoses, so between tumor and epilepsy. So if there is no difference, then we would expect it's not epilepsy related. And then for epilepsy, we always have disease background information, such as frequency of seizures, the age of onset, the duration of epilepsy, and we can correlate our parameters also with this disease parameters. And again, here we don't find any correlation. And finally, we also do histology to look at the markers of the disease. So, for example, for tumor, for fast-dividing cells, or for epilepsy, for gliosis, activated microglia, astrocytic shape. So there is a very small proportion of patients where we find pathology, and then we don't take them into analysis. So we do, again, we cannot completely rule out that disease plays a role, but this type of controls we can do. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And another question would be how or whether what your ideas are, how your results could relate to my results concerning the macro level of networks. Mm-hmm. So when we, for example, see the differences in coupling, mm-hmm. or the differences in white matter, so the basis mm-hmm. of all these mm-hmm. are neurons.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. So one thing that I really liked about your presentation is that you show that this redundant, that the whole network is involved in intelligence. That also would be our hunch because of what I mentioned, that people with after surgery do not really deteriorate much in their IQ scores. But most importantly, we actually even have data to link those levels. So because we had. For a subset of those patients, we had a functional MRI. So actually, I have a collaboration with a person at our institute who did network analysis, a graph network analysis, Linda Dow. You know her? So we actually combined this MRI, functional MRI, but also MEG measurement with total dendritic length and looked how this relate. And what we found is that especially with centrality of the node in temporal lobe, we find a relationship with total dendritic length. So this, as I understand, the high centrality means that this node, the hub, plays a bigger role in the global network compared to other hubs. And so people with neurons with bigger dendritic length, which we would expect integrate more information, so they also, this place in their brain has high centrality, so plays a bigger role as a hub.
Yeah, makes completely sense.
Yeah, so that's how I think this relates. But of course, we are very limited by the resection location, so we cannot look at the whole network.
Yeah, I thought a little bit about the nearly established result that higher intelligence brains have higher fractional anisotropy, so a higher degree of connectedness all over, or faster processing speed or so on, and this could be linked to the action potential result. But I would be...
But in that case, we would find also correlations in the right hemisphere. So,
yes.
So it's still not a completely global effect.
Or maybe you find it only there because these are epileptic patients. And in other, maybe it is a whole brain effect in healthy.
But some patients have right hemispheric resection, so they have epilepsy in the right hemisphere. So that's why we take the right hemispheric part. So it's not only a patient suffering from left hemisphere epilepsy. Yeah.
I have a global question, which is Adam talked about the. It was very interesting. You said the delta band was more a kind of feature for the high IQ people. You said, Kirsten, that the whole network, I mean, is a more valuable thing to get, and the complexity of the neuron. So meaning that probably, and delta band has been elaborated as a kind of sending information from long distance as well as gamma as well, but delta seems like they send connections or send signals to long distance in the brain. So that means that all the research done previously in particular regions of the brain is not useful anymore, because you are talking here about a network, a huge network and complexity. The more complex and the more long distance connections, the more the differences between high IQ and low IQ. So is that, am I correct that all previous work were not well focused?
That's really provocative. Yes, it's provocative.
If I may make some comment on this, that it goes about this distance is one possibility, but an alternative is that it goes. What matters is more time, slower pace. There is because normally for coordination of working memory and control, typically people find effects for the theta band, and Lisman and Idiard model and many other theoretical conceptions link theta band with working memory-like operations. So why not theta but delta may be important for intelligence? And there is only one study now which is in a way illuminating or proposing a solution that for working memory it is simple because you typically have a very simple structure of stimuli. So for example, you have a series of 3, 4, 5 stimuli. So the theta cycle can handle this. So the exchange of information during like 200 milliseconds is enough to neurally represent those informations. But for intelligence, for processes related with intelligence, or what is important for intelligence, typically encompasses more complex structures. For example, relations between two different lists, you have to compare them, or some higher order hierarchy. And there is hypothesis that theta band cycle length is not enough to encompass such a structure. So delta is a proper band because it opens a window of like 500 milliseconds, and then the brain is able to relate all the information. And there is one study from Basel lab where they showed that they manipulated working memory task. It either required maintenance of a simple structure of stimuli or a more complex structure, and the effects were for the former condition for the theta band, but for the latter condition for the delta band, and so they formulated this kind of hypothesis. So maybe it is not about the distance, but the time you need to interrelate all the information that is necessary for an intelligent process, whatever it is. But it's only a hypothesis.
But again, it's about the sending, because the delta could be the wave that is containing the information for and allowing other cycles to nest within the delta and sending information to long distance connections.
Yeah, but I think both theta and delta can coordinate parieto-frontal communication, so they both are able to make this transfer, but maybe delta is needed when the window for this transfer is required to be longer.
So the complexity of the network then is something important, and not to focus on very specific. I mean, I'm just trying to extract information from your three talks. It's clearly that the network is more important than local activity or focusing on very specific things, right? Okay.
And it's complicated.
Okay, yeah, but I'm just trying to summarize it.
Yeah.
Hi, Kirsten, how do you reconcile the terrible message that we need all the brain for understanding intelligence differences with the results we know with hundreds of patients with focal brain lesions? Because we know that there are some regions that are much more important for understanding differences between them than the whole brain. How do you reconcile these two kind of data? Because lesion studies are powerful and are suggesting causal relationships. So
I did. I also found in our work that some networks, like the attention networks or frontoparietal networks, are more important than other networks. But when it comes to the focal brain lesioning studies, they really support focused regions, right? So very, very focused regions. Can you a little bit why do these it is so long ago that I have read the paper from Protzko and et al., right? It's the Protzko literature. What was the argument why they are more important?
No, the main framework for this kind of studies is you compare different patients with the same lesion in some specific region with other patients with lesions in other regions. And you see how the different lesions impact their intelligence performance. And you see that there are some brain regions that are much more important than others for explaining their differences when they solve the intelligence test. That is the main
this
message.
is an interesting point. To be honest, I would have to look it up in the study, because we discussed this study in our journal club, and I just remember that I was very, very skeptical. But I do not know yet why exactly. I'm very convinced at this moment that
I know, but there are many published studies looking into this with big samples of patients. So. And they are providing very interesting information regarding how the different regions in the brain are impacting on their performance.
I would have to look it up because there were some points that made me conclude that I do not trust the result. But and potentially was also a review. I would lean too much out of the window to make.
I will send you the information because I think it's very interesting to compare with what you are doing. Because you are doing...
Yes. I'm completely familiar.
But you could also argue that some of those regions are necessary and necessary for the whole brain function, but it's not that it's limited to that region. So it's one of the network. So for optimal function, you still need the whole brain. But if you take out one of those important nodes, then you disrupt the whole brain function.
But on the other side, we tested this where we, with the simulated brain lesioning approach, where we computationally lesioned all networks but one. So 90% of the brain. And prediction was still possible. It was a drop in prediction performance, right? But it was remarkably slightly, only small. I have to look it up. There were some reasons.
Okay, do it. Because it's very interesting and we need to discuss that. And for both of you, you are underlying the message in your presentation that speed is not important, but Natalia says that speed is very important. So how do you reconcile that? I'm sorry for the question.
I think these are completely two different time frames for speed. Speed in terms of 1-2 milliseconds or something like this, and speed in perspective of 100 milliseconds, what is typical for inspection time, or speed, or even suprasecond speed are different speeds. So I think these are simply different processes. That it's not that the speed on inspection time is resulting from the speed of neuron firing, because first of all you have like idle intervals. So for example, the neuron can fire more quickly by 1 millisecond, but then some other process has to wait 20 milliseconds for input, and there is a slack or whatever you can call it. So it doesn't sum to the resulting reaction time in an easy way. So
I agree with that. So what we measure is not exactly the speed that would translate to the overall speed of the brain. We are not looking at the white matter or connections from one neuron to like other brain region. So what our results translate into is more information within time, a certain time point. So it's more the resolution of how much information neuron can cope with at certain like bits per minute, let's say, information rate. But not how fast the information will travel from one region to another. So like in reaction time.
So you are saying that the speed must be important at some level, but lose relevance at higher levels. Are you saying that?
I still think speed is important on all levels, but in our study does not say anything about the speed of like reaction or speed of information transfer from one area to another. It only says something about resolution of how much information can be processed by one neuron, and in this way also by network. So it's more the amount of information rather than the speed.
But you talk about computational power at your
computational
level.
power of single neurons.
But I think this must translate to higher levels in some way. So that's why I try to connect both presentations.
But speed can be, this low-level speed can be completely overpassed or captured by, for example, information processing reliability. So even if you have a very fast process, but you have to repeat it 3 times before its output will be correct. It will translate in actually lower speed when you have perhaps basically slower process, but which is very reliable, and you need only run it once.
Yeah, that's the key word. Actually, what we are looking at is a reliability of action potential output to input. So it's not about speed, it's about indeed reliability, how accurate the neuron can interpret the information that comes and translate it into output.
I simply think that at the current level of or stage of development of neuroscience, it's very difficult to relate causally the low level that Natalia works on and psychometric speed.
Yeah, but in some point we need to connect different levels for understanding the whole thing. So that's why I am asking about that.
Now I also have perhaps a more general and risky thought that there are 2 different things we are discussing. One is general biological fitness of the brain, and probably it's better to have reliable, fast, good working brain. And the other thing we are talking about is cognitive ability, general intelligence, which may require quite good fitness of the brain, biological fitness, but it is emergent on it, so it requires also something else that is not present in the brain. So there is an old debate between reductionism and weak emergentism. We of course rejected strong emergentism in philosophy of mind, but weak emergentism is still a viable theoretical position. So it is the question how much you can reduce general intelligence to biological fitness, or there is something else also in the game, which of course is not magical, but is maybe related to information processing, to the structure you can put on the information you process and so on, which are not so strongly related to biology, because there is multiple realization concept that you can realize biologically the same informational process in very many ways. So even if the brain is not fast enough to as it should be, it can compensate and realize the same computational process using some other resources, some other strategies. So I think this is a very complex question, but I would separate biological fitness from informational fitness, I would say. These are 2 different things, closely related, and one depends on the other. So like discussing those neurodegenerative cases, of course you cannot have informational fitness if you have a very bad biological fitness, but if you have sufficient biological fitness, different scenarios are possible on the informational level. And when we talk about intelligence, we talk about the informational, cognitive level, not biological.
So there are questions behind.
Maybe you would like?
No, it's only
Thanks.
From a computational point of view, Natalia is talking about transmission rate, and Adam is talking about response time. Even from a computational point of view, a high transmission rate may need, you have a lot of bits, you have a lot of information, may need a higher response times to process and to give the right answer. So, at least from a computer's view, there is no there is no crash between the high transmission rate and the lower response time. It's only a puntualización. I don't know the name in English.
Yeah, this was more like a general question. I wanted to ask, like, you guys know a lot about intelligence and about topic. So I just wanted to, well, you talked about how it's impossible to train intelligence. It's like a 2-week intervention or something like that. But for example, there are some interventions to avoid like cognitive impairment illnesses in the future. For example, Alzheimer, they tell you to walk like not always the same way, like change the path, or brush with the left hand, which is really hard. I tried. And I wanted to ask if for intelligence there's like some cognitive strategies that you can use to maintain intelligence or for the future. Or for example, Natalia was talking about verbal and intelligence are practically the same. So maybe reading a lot of books through your life can help. I don't know. It's a question.
This is this is a great question. To be honest, I have researched these types of questions because I gave a summer course to a public audience that came from different background, and it was also about the questions: can we eat to get smarter? Can we make sports to get smarter, and so on? And so there is no training that really affects your IQ. But there is something that you can do to stay healthy, to keep your working brain, to practice it, to do not rest. What I found interesting is that 4 cups of coffee, so 400 milligram caffeine, makes you work better and could increase your intelligence, but not more. So keep away from more than 4 cups. Sorry, 4 cups of coffee a day. Concerning food, it is that omega-3 and omega-6 acids help your brain to survive when you are older. So they save the myelin from the synapses. So this would be great. Keep challenging your brain. And what I have found also interesting is and avoid toxics. So do not smoke, do not drink, do not play football and get a lot of head injuries. You are laughing. It really reduces your IQ. There are studies out there when you do it a lot of times. And it is so. And what I found interesting is that at least the studies that have been published on sports is that physical activity increases or saves your brain, saves your IQ in the older age more than cognitive challenges. So physical activity is even more important than cognitive activity to save your IQ when you get older. But it has not to be sports. It just has to be physical activity. For example, going out for a walk. There were also some guidelines what was perfect. It was only half an hour. It depends on your age, but it was half an hour up to an hour per day or so, but only walking, not jogging, yeah? And on the other hand, very, very hard exercises, for example, marathon, can decrease your IQ. And I found this a very interesting finding, because when you live in this fitness bubble, yeah, and more, it's not more, it's a regular and natural physical activity. But this seemed to be even, and the best sport mentioned by this study was aerobic fitness, because that it combines the social aspect with the thing of cognitive training, because you have to remember the step frequencies and to keep it in your memory, and the physical activity part. So dancing in a group or something like this.
That's so cool, actually.
This is why I'm not running marathons. And with those 4 coffees, you die of heart attack, but very intelligently.
No, 4 coffee keeps your arterial free of.
If you don't have hypertension, or
Yeah, I speak from
Okay, so maybe that's an obvious question, but according to her question, so will we, like the more intelligent people, more protected of brain damage? Like, will they recover better than or less intelligent people, let's say?
Yeah, there are studies that show that brain reserve is important for keeping your brain function optimal during aging. So the more intellectually, so the higher your IQ and education level and the way you use your brain, the better you preserve it during aging. So,
but I mean only with intelligence, because of course of reserve cognition. If you read, if you do sports and etc., it will prepare you for brain damage. But only with intelligence, like with the intelligence, because you said that you can't really train your intelligence level. So I don't know if it could protect somehow.
Yeah, so and also statistics that we both showed show that IQ correlates with health and life expectancy. So people do live longer with high IQs.
Because they
for whatever reason,
do not they do not smoke. There is this very strong negative correlation with smoking behavior, and also concerning health related behavior. So go to the doctor regularly and eat a little bit healthier and so on. This correlates to some point with intelligence, and this all can be some reasons why there is a link to longevity. And also not so much stress, as intelligence is linked to socioeconomic status. You do not have so risky jobs, for example.
But I think also very old data from Linda Gottfredson, that she showed that when you are highly intelligent, there is lower probability that you take wrong pills, for example, or you contact the right doctor. Actually, surviving medical service is a very complex cognitive and very difficult task, and I see it in my family. My mother-in-law is very organized, and she saved at least 4 people in our family because she was able to manage the medical service. So they provided operation in 1 week, and the guy did not wait for 6 months for operation. I think such things also matter. They are more funny, so we don't account for them in research, but I think they also may matter.
That's true.
Okay, and did you do any correlation to socioeconomic study, like socioeconomic part? Like a correlation between intelligence and socioeconomic status?
Yes, there is a huge correlation, but it is the direction of this correlation cannot be established, and probably it's bidirectional. So intelligent people have more wealthy families because as intelligence is highly hereditary, their parents were more intelligent than other parents, so they provided better education at very early stage. So it is a bidirectional relationship that I think cannot be disentangled. But yes, of course, there is.
I think there are some adoption between studies showing that the effect goes with intelligence level, not the socioeconomic status of the family. So
The what level?
from the intelligence level of the individual to the socioeconomic status of the later status. So the adoption and twin studies show that there is a link between the intelligence level and the polygenic scores, for instance, of the individual with the next level at the socioeconomic level.
Because they've been raised in different families.
Right, right. And if you even can compare people within the same family and see what happens with them as they grow up. So, and you see that the polygenic score, for instance, related with the educational attainment, predicts the movements of those children after they leave home. Okay, so there are some cues.
I saw the estimate in US. It was like 10 years ago that each IQ point is $200 of additional income. So of course it is a rather funny estimation, but we don't know how it will look like when AI will take our jobs. Maybe it will even speed up, so there will be work for 20% of the most intelligent people, and the jobs will be highly complex, so only the most intelligent people will be able to perform them. And the relation between intelligence and SES will be even stronger. But also I heard the prediction from some futurologists and social scientists that it may be more complicated. So for example, work of programmers or coders will be quickly eliminated by AI, but you will not eliminate a plumber. So perhaps a plumber will earn good money, and a coder, a computer scientist will be unemployed and will be looking for a job. I think we live in very interesting times.
Okay, Fernando told me that it's 6 and we need to close the event. Okay, so.
Yeah. Thanks again, the speakers, and thank you all you for coming and for your questions. So let's clap the speakers again.